Okay, what about adding and subtracting negative numbers? Let's take the following example. Let's say that you are in a building, and in that building you are 2 floors below the ground. Okay, we can represent that as a negative number. We can say 2 floors below the ground is a -2, right? Okay, let's say that you used the elevator and you went down 3 more levels. Okay, you went down from the floor number 2 below the ground. Okay, you went down 3 levels. Okay, so down by 3 levels. Where do you end up at? Where do you end up at? You are 2 floors below the ground and you're going 3 more down. You will end up at 5 floors below the ground. Okay? As we said in the explanation video, you can use the vertical number line to imagine this, but you will end up using this, finding this answer. Okay? Here we have a -5. Let's take another look at it. And what did we do numerically here? What did we do in math? Okay, what's the sign of 2 here? It's a negative number. Okay, a tricky question. What is the sign of 3 here? A lot of students will say it's a +3. But here's something to remember, and it's a tricky thing. Always, when we talk about negative and positive numbers, the sign of the number is the same as the mathematical operation. I know this seems weird, but it's the same. When we say -3, subtracting a 3, okay, it's the same as saying a -3. The sign is actually just a determination of where do you move on the number line. You are moving to the left or down on the vertical number line. That's why it has a negative sign. And it's the same exact meaning but as just going down or subtracting 3. So subtracting a 3 is the same as going -3 on the number line, or 3 levels or 3 steps down on the vertical number line. Okay? So what's the sign of the 3 here? It's a negative. So these two numbers have the same sign. Okay? What is the sign of the answer? It is the same sign. Okay? So whenever we have same signs in addition and subtraction, we will end up having the same sign in the answer. Okay? We're not going to change the sign anyway, right? We will end up with the same sign. Okay, what do we do for the digits themselves? We have 2 and 3. How did we end up with 5? We actually added them. Okay, so 2 plus 3, that's a 5, and we keep the same sign. So this is the rule basically. Whenever we have same signs, let's write that down and then examine the rule. Okay, so we'll say whenever we have same signs and we're adding them, okay, we will end up adding the 2 digits. We add the 2 digits and we keep the same sign. Keep same sign for the answer. How do we believe this? Let's take a simple example to be able to understand this. What is 2 plus 3? 2 plus 3. It's obviously 5, right? Okay, let me ask you, what is the sign of 2 here? It's a positive number. What about 3? It's a positive number. What about the sign of the answer? We ended up having the same sign. It's a positive, and also we added the 2 digits. So 2 plus 3, that's a 5. Let's take a little bit of a trickier example. Let's say that we are 65 feet below the ground and we're going down 110 feet more. Okay, where do we end up at? Let's follow the rule. We have same signs. Remember, in addition and subtraction, we don't look at the face. We don't use the face. Same signs. We should have the same sign in the answer. A negative and minus a negative. It's just like a negative, okay? We should have the same answer, the same sign in the answer. Okay, and because they have same signs, what do? we add them. Okay, so we need to add 110 plus 65, which will give us 175. So the answer in this case is a negative 175. Okay, this is how we apply the first conclusion. We already concluded that together. So whenever we have same signs, we will just add and keep the same sign. Okay? What about if we have different signs? And that's the last part of today's lesson. Whenever we have different signs, let's say that you are at the first floor of a building, okay? You're just at the first floor, and you're going 2 floors down. 2 floors down. Or let's say 3 floors down. Okay? You can draw the vertical number line and imagine it, and you will find the answer that if you just imagine this, if you are at the first floor and you went down 3 floors below the ground, you will end up at the second floor below the ground, and -2, at -2, right? Okay, what just happened here? To conclude the rule, we will look at this. Look at the absolute values of the numbers. That sounds complicated. Just look at the numbers without the sign. 1 compared to 3. Which one is bigger? Which one is greater? 3 is greater than 1. Okay, again, we're not talking about -3 here. The sign of 3 is negative, absolutely, but we're not talking about -3 here. We're just talking about absolute value. Which one is greater, 3 or 1? 3 is greater, right? Okay, now what's the sign of 3? It's a negative number, right? So definitely the answer will have a negative sign. Because, again, the greater number has a negative sign, so the answer will have a negative sign. Okay, what's the rule here? What do we do if we have different signs? Let's write it down. And remember, whenever we have different signs and we are adding or subtracting, okay, we are adding or subtracting, and we have different signs, we will find the difference. What do we mean by difference? In mathematics, whenever we say the word difference, it's not finding a difference between these two images, for example. We're just finding the difference by subtracting or adding. Let's ask ourselves a question here. What is the difference between 1 and 3? It's 2. How? Because you need to add 2 to the 1 to get into 3. So 1 plus 2 equals 3. And you need to remove 2 from 3 to get to 1. So 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay, so the difference between 1 and 3 is basically 2. All right? Okay, so whenever we have different signs, we first determine the sign of the answer depending on which one is bigger. 3 is greater than 1, and its sign is negative, so the answer will have a negative sign. Secondly, what's going to be the answer? It's just the difference between the two numbers. Okay, let's take more examples on this part here. We'll erase everything and just have more examples on the last one. Okay, let's say that we have negative 115 plus 120. Sounds complicated, but we will follow the rule. Okay, which one is greater in value, 120 or 115? Okay, it's 120. What's the sign of 120? It's a positive number, right? So the answer must have the same sign, positive number. Okay, now, do they have same signs? No, they have different signs. Because they have different signs, we need to find the difference. What's the difference between 120 and 115? It's just a 5. Check. 115 plus 5 is 120, and 120 minus 5 is 115. Okay, that's it. That's our answer here. Okay, another example. Let's say that we have 64 minus 72. Okay, same questions. Different signs, right? Okay, we need to look at the digits themselves. This number here is greater than 64. Which one is greater? 72 is greater. What's the sign of 72? It's a negative number. So because it's the greater one and it has a negative sign, then the answer will definitely have a negative sign. Okay. Do they have same signs or different signs? The 64 is positive here, and the 72 is negative, so they do have different signs. So in this case, we need to find the difference. What's the difference between these two numbers? How much do you need to add to 64 to get 72? That's an 8, right? Double check. 64 plus 8 equals 72, and 72 minus 8 equals 64. Okay, so that's it. We got the answer. We put a negative because the greatest number is a negative number. And we put 8 because they do have different signs and we need to find the difference between them. What about this one? Negative 12 minus 20. Well, that's easy. They do have same signs. The answer will have the same sign. And whenever we have same signs, in addition and subtraction, we add 20 plus 12, which is 32. One last example. 5 plus 10. 5 is a positive and 10 is a positive. So they do have same signs. So we were going to keep that sign, a positive sign. And what do we do for the digits? We just add them. 5 plus 10. Normally it's 15. Okay, you don't have to think about it in terms of rules, of course, but this is just a reminder of why these rules do make sense. And of course, this is just a quick revision of the rules. If you need to understand why exactly we do this and how does it make sense, does it really make sense or what, you need to watch the full explanation for these negative and positive multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. And the link will be below. But for now, this is just the summary that we need to understand how to add, multiply, subtract, and divide numbers in a fast way so we can directly use them. Okay?